Hello, football fans, and welcome back to the Corner Flag podcast. Has been a little while between episodes. We did have some technical difficulties with our good friend Nathan Burns. Plus, we've also welcomed the new baby to the Corner Flag family. That has taken precedence. So I do apologise for being away for a little, but really happy for you today to sit back, relax, and enjoy part two of our chat with former Socceroo Nathan Burns. I'd like to welcome former Socceroo Nathan Burns. Burnsy, great to have you here, mate. Really excited to get into this and truly, really do appreciate your time. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, let's rip in. Let's
All
go.
right, let's rip in. Let's go. Can you tell me your earliest memories of football?
Yeah, so started at six, in my little country town in Blaney, and then yeah, just basically small town, small football, and just basically competed um at a country level in a small town for like 10 years, and just I just remember cold mornings, putting the boots on, dad putting the boots on, and then going out just kicking oversized jerseys, back in the day, and yeah, just not a care in the world. So it was good.
Yep. And you mentioned your first junior club before. How did you get involved? Was it did Dad play and he wanted you to do it, or how did that happen?
No, my dad's never played the game. He was from Victoria, so country Victoria. Grew up in AFL and basketball, and then he moved out to the Central West. And then yeah, just he was all new to him as well. So even going up the ranks when I was 14, 15, he was never really given advice. He was just supportive, which was yeah, a good way to look at it because he's never really put pressure on me or given advice, which is supportive dad, which was great. I've seen both sides of it. Some dads can really help if they know stuff, but then I think it worked well that he was just supportive.
Yeah. And how did you get from Blaney out near Orange to MPL football in Sydney?
So I th- I had the just went up through the country kind of system, which was like you play Orange reps and you go into West and then you go into Country New South Wales. And then I played the state titles for Country New South Wales, and then Um, I had a really good season, like a good tournament, and then New South Wales Institute selected me from that, and it's quite hard being in the country team because you lose most games then, but obviously they seen something that was enough to ask my parents. I was 14 years old. They're like, this kid's got to come down to Sydney, and I was still very like I was a small kid and not developed, so obviously they could see something because when I went down to Sydney, all the N Swiss players were quite big. Um, and yeah, it took me 12 months. I was just probably the worst player there, and I just lost confidence a little bit. Like, um, and Swiss was also an age group up, so I was always training with the older kids as well. So like Brucey and Brad Porters and Nundi was there. Like there was a few older kids, and then they eventually went the next year, and then we were the older kids. So it wasn't until the second year I was playing right back the first year, and then when the next younger generation came up, like then I was on the wing, and then I felt like I developed a lot more. But the first year was quite hard moving from the country to Sydney. But it worked out in the end, I suppose. So
And did your
got
parents
there.
move with you, or were you billeting? What was happening?
No, 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 no. So then they had a decision to make to obviously let me go down to Sydney, and they stayed there. And then I got rented out. I got rented out. I got billeted out by a family in Maryland.
Mhm.
And yeah, that like he's still my best mate to this day. And he played football and went to Westfield Sports High as well. So yeah, that was Westfield Sports High. Went to a public school there, and then did NSWIS 4 or 5 times a week, and that was my life. I was just training, and then yeah, basically 2 years doing that.
And how did Westfield pick you up then? If you had gone over to the institute, is that something you tried out for, or did you get recommended to go there? How did that happen?
I think it was more, yeah, it was more. You normally do trial because I was selected for NSWIS. I just needed the school to go, and then Trevor Morgan, the coach was like, yeah, yeah, he definitely can come. There's a couple of kids that already go to NSWIS here, so um, and then they helped get me the accommodation. So it was more through the school that they helped me get the accommodation rather than NSWIS.
Hmm.
And then yeah, so a guy that went to my school, like, Trevor just asked, do you want, can this guy stay with you for maybe 12 months and and he was keen, so that's how it all played out. And big move at 14 to move away from home.
Hmm.
Um, but then yeah, it was probably harder for my parents than me because I was always like, oh, this is where I want to be. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, looking back, like letting your kid go down to Sydney at 14. Before that, I was driving down. My parents were driving down for about 4 months, doing the trip to Sydney. So it would take about 4 hours, and we were doing that twice a week.
Yeah.
So, and then eventually got to be that. Yeah, then we waited for the school to start, and then good to go.
It's a big trek, 4 hours each way, twice a week. So yeah,
Yeah.
obviously a bit of a decision there. So glad it worked out well in that sense as well. So you mentioned a few names there. Have you got anyone else? Who else? I always like to know sort of who was in your age group, at Westfields or
Yep.
even at NSWIS as well. So obviously you mentioned a few. Is there anyone else that went on from that group to go and do some good things?
So at school, like Scott Jemison, Jason Jafiro, uh, played for Western Sydney. They were in my age group, and then like Tony Tonus was there, Matty Ryan was under. There was Navini, like there was obviously a lot of players came out of Westfields. But my age group, it was a tough one because um, thinking back on NSWIS, uh, in my group, can't say anyone else made it,
Mm-hmm.
which is, um, which is hard because you got the best 20 players in the country, and maybe they just got it wrong that year. So, that's sometimes you get a good age group and good group, and sometimes you don't. So I think I was the only one that got through that with this team. So, and then Scott
Yeah.
Jemison,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
he was there for a little bit, but
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of factors to go on and make it professionally as well. But yeah, like you said, in New South Wales generally being the strongest, a lot of those national tournaments and stuff, you'd think there'd be a few more that kick on. So it's interesting. Um, my question is, were you always an attacking player? I know you said you played a little bit of right back at NSWIS, but was that always your thing? You were always on the wing?
yeah, always attacking player. Um, and then yeah, that one probably 6 months right back, and I haven't played there since. Um, but yeah, always been a winger, and especially being the country, growing up in the country, I was always the striker, number 10, kind of did everything and just up the guts. And then yeah, it wasn't until I went to N-Smith and they kind of put me on the wing, and then slowly, I was always coming back into the striker role, like number 10. Um, then I could always be flexible across the front three. So.
Where did you go from NSWIS?
So 2 years at NSWIS, and then basically uh, I got selected to go to that World Cup in Peru, and that was the only camp I got called into. Obviously, I was probably like the last picked at NSWIS, so then Joey's came and I went, like the whole team of NSWIS got picked, and I was the only one that didn't get picked. And I was like, oh, it's all right. Maybe I never really rated myself as being a good player, anyways, at that stage. And then and then Ange at the time wasn't happy with any players. He's like, we're about to go to the World Cup, and I'm just gonna do a clean out. The last tournament was rubbish, and then he happened to be like heard of like a player at Westfields, and and Ange came to a school game to watch myself and Jason Jafiro play in the school game at Westfields at Sydney United, and then he was like, yep, those two can come to our next camp. So then we got picked into the camp that we're about to go to the Under 17 World Cup. And then from that camp, I went straight into the starting lineup. And then the rest was history. Then I started the first game of the World Cup, scored the only goal for the Socceroos, and then had a really good tournament, and then went back. And then AIS took me straight in. So it was probably a big 4 months of just how quick it just went off.
Yeah.
And then when I got to the AIS was basically a year up. So they only took 5 players from my age group. So next minute I'm in the top 5 players in my age group, and which was myself, Robbie Cruz, Skranovic, um, Kaz Patafta. I feel like there was one more. can't remember. Anyway, so yeah, so they pick us five to go play out in the age group above. And then when I got there, um, all of a sudden I'm like, I think I'm like one of the best strikers here with the age group up as well. So then being like a shy kind of country kid in like 4 months, all of a sudden that belief was like, you know what, I'm actually a good player. But before that, I had doubt, and I was always like, I never believed that. And I remember that light bulb kind of moment, that switch of like, oh, mate, maybe I'm good. Like I actually thought like, oh, maybe I'm not a bad player because I didn't have that belief. No one's ever been like because it was always about the other players, right? So there's always the main players in the age group who keep getting pumped up and they're talked about. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I believe. And then next minute I was maybe I think 3 months at the AIS, and then Cosmina came down to watch the under 20s AIS, what it was at the time, and he wasn't happy with any of the under 23 players. So I'm still at school, I'm 17, and then and I had to get through 18 like to finish school. And then basically Cosmina came down and was like, I'm not happy with any players from Adelaide who are 23 down, because there used to be under 23 players in the A League.
Yeah.
You had two spots. So it's so hard to break into and they'll just take a local boy from Adelaide.
Mm.
And Cosy was the only one who was like, mate, I can't find one good player in the whole of Adelaide. So then he's like, oh, I'll take him. So then I had to basically just fast track school. And then I had a pro contract at 18 years old. And that was all in the space of like 6 months. So I was like, mate, just hold on. And it just went like, and then all of a sudden I was like, I got a 2-year deal. And that was a conversation with in Adelaide. I signed a 2-year deal. And I remember the uh, general manager, the CEO, going, uh, there's that many strikers in front of you. There's like, you're like the sixth, seventh striker. And then he's like, we're doing bonuses back then. He's like, these are kind of your bonuses. But if you get to 10 appearances, don't even worry, because you're not like,
Yeah.
we're just laughing like, mate, you're not going to get 10 appearances at 18. And then that season, I played every game. So, man, talk about it like that's football. In 12 months, you just explode. But then on the same side, you can go down just as quick with injuries and not getting contracts and fighting with a coach. But yeah, I will say that was huge how quick that happened.
Yeah. And did
A
you?
lot, a lot just happened. A lot just happened there, man. A lot just happened. So
Yeah.
we went through quite quick.
Yeah. No, you skipped right ahead there, which is good. Did you just for my own psyche? Did you play at Marconi at all?
No, I was at Melita.
Yeah. So never at Marconi. Never.
So
Never.
Marconi, no, but like that's so between AIS, N-Swiss and AIS. Then when I went away to the World Cup, I came back and I haven't been like selected. That was like 4 months, and uh, yeah, we finished N-Swiss. So then I went to Melita first group in 16. So that's where Trevor Morgan basically kind of been, and Trevor was the first to kind of give me that confidence and belief.
Mhm.
And that's where it all started. So he's like, and it was the year of the NSL finishing in the A League. So being 16, playing in like Nicky Carl and all those players all back in playing NSL. And then Trevor was the leader coach. But I did get like um asked to go to Marconi. And it was funny, I was like negotiating contracts at like 17.
Yeah.
It was so funny. I was like, what am I doing? Like, and basically the reason I went to Melita is because it's the only way I could get there. Like my lift was going that way.
Yeah.
So I was just going where I could get, because obviously I didn't have my license yet. I wasn't 17, I was still 16, and yeah, I was billeted. So I was like, oh, the guy I was living with, I'm like, where are you going? I'll just come with you.
Mhm.
And it just happened to be Melita.
Yeah.
So yeah, in 6 months there, but never no, never
No, because you know
there.
what? I played at Marconi, and I remember playing like the older age groups. And I remember playing against Bruce
Mm,
Jete. Like he was just physically so much bigger. But there was all like a bunch of the
yeah,
guys in my team were all Westfield boys and whatever. And I'm sure they were
yeah.
talking about you. I don't know if you come down to trial or train or something at some point.
Yeah, I was. I was meant to come because at the time Dave Barrett was at Westfields
Yes,
and he was the under 20s coach.
correct.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I'm sitting at Westfields and Dave Barrett's calling me in like on like not calling, but like it's like lunchtime. And I got Dave in my ear about coming to Marconi, and then I got Trevor Morgan, who's my coach as well. He's like, come to Melita. And then I was like, mate, what is this negotiations, man? I'm just trying to have my lunch. And yeah, that's obviously how it was. Yeah, looking back on it, it was quite funny. But I actually chose like I remember like Marconi was paying at that time.
Mhm.
They were paying um the cash, but then I couldn't get to the training, so I went Melita. And Trevor was obviously first grade coach, so he was like, "I'll give you first grade." Where I wasn't going to play Marconi first grade then. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, very good. So obviously that, yeah, stepping into the A League scene quite young, end up with 35 games for Adelaide, and then you got called up to the Socceroos. So you talk about a whirlwind 6, 12 months, like it, everything seemed to happen quite quick. How did you get that first call up then? What was the process? Was it an email, a text, a phone call? What happens there?
for for the Socceroos.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so how soccer is kind of there's like a well, I think yeah, when you're going back to my first call up. I can't even remember how they used to do it, but I'm sure the coach would have been following me and monitoring me through the A League.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, then they just kind of give you a call. I think when it's your first time, when you're around the squad a few times, you just kind of get the team manager just hit you up and be like, you're being watched this week. Have a good game. Report back to us after the end of the week how you pull up. And then after that game of your like club football, then he would just send you the itinerary and be like, congratulations, you're in the squad. And that's kind of how it kind of works. But my first call up, yeah, would have been like I probably found out through my coach or whatever. They would have called Adelaide and because he probably pulled me aside, said you've been selected, da da. da. So yeah, it's a yeah massive moment.
And did you expect that first call up? Because I know obviously you were saying how you never really rated yourself and got to that point where obviously you thought, oh, I'm actually all right. Did you expect the Socceroos call up?
Uh, no, I was just it was all happening so fast, and then when I was called up, like we're talking the golden generation, and like. I remember just when I arrived at the hotel and I was just looking through the little door what do they call where you look out at on the hallway. I was looking through that and I seen Dukes go past, Harry Kill go past, Vinny Grella, you name like it was just this um like a full like Swarzer, everyone and then I was like, oh mate, this I can't wait for dinner and then I just got there and then once I met them all I was like, oh, they're all just legends and nice guys, but
Yeah,
yeah, I reckon I was way too young to be in that squad, but they're obviously just trying to push me and promote me, um, and try and give me my best career. But yeah, it was maybe I was ready, but I just didn't feel it at the time. I was pretty shocked.
yeah.
So
No, it'd be pretty surreal looking out that peephole and seeing, I suppose guys that because you're so young, guys that you've grown up watching play, must have been pretty
yeah,
surreal. So shortly after
and
that,
we're still also in the sorry, we're still also in the under 23s as well.
mhm,
So in the Olympics, so we're kind of doing both. So sometimes I would hold you back because they wanted you for the under 23s. But they obviously thought I was ready to go straight into the first. So yeah, it was a lot happening.
yeah.
But yeah,
Well, and it gets even better because shortly after that, it was AEK Athens come calling. How did that how did
mm,
that how did that move come about? Because um, yeah, I suppose at the time it wasn't probably as big a move like Aussies going to Asia. Like Europe was the destination, I
mm,
suppose, back then.
mm.
So how did that come about then? Was it a call to your agent or to the club or how I suppose for us at home who don't get to see that side of things, how does a move like that progress?
Mate, it was a very honestly. This is looking back. This was one of the hardest decisions because what happened was I was in the camp for under 23s and we're preparing to go to the Olympics, and I've got an offer come through, a 4-year deal in Greece, and knowing what was happening, it was like, do I take the 4-year deal in Greece, which was a Europa club, pushing for Champions League. Obviously, Rivaldo's there, Good Johnson's there, mate, big players there. But if I took that deal, there was a good chance I wasn't going to go to the Olympics because I couldn't do the prep and I had a new team and I had to go put my energy into my new team and I didn't get selected. So as soon as I signed that deal and announced that I was going to Greece, then I didn't make the Olympic team. So it was so stressful, but then also everyone kept saying at the time, why are you going there? Why are you going there? You should be going other teams like Belgium, whatever. But you got to remember, I'm Aussie and I didn't have a passport, so I couldn't just go those routes. I was very limited to where I could go in Europe, and Turkey and Greece were the only places that had six foreigners. So they're little stories that people don't understand. Like I just couldn't go to. I went on trial to Club Bruges and I was like, I loved it there. I was like, oh, to my agent, I was like, let me, I trialed really well, scored a couple of goals. I was like, I want to stay here. This one's, but they're like, there's no visa slots. Like, you have to be on an X amount of money to be in Belgium. And I was like, mate, I don't know, what can I do? Like, I was like, I can see myself here. But then, yeah, 4 year deal in a big European club came and I took it. So, and it was the best decision because the first year was really hard and I learnt heaps as a footballer, but then I had to go on loan anyway. So it didn't matter which club you go to, and you see it all the time. People can sign at any club. All the young boys are doing it now. Doesn't matter what team you sign for, it's what team you go on loan to. That's the biggest move because that's when you're going to play. And all these big clubs are just a business and they want a pool of players and they're just going to put you around. So knowing that now, I went on loan to a Greek club, second division, and then I was in Socceroo at the time. People were like, mate, these guys end up in this Division Two, it's no better than the A League in Greece. But you're getting around that culture of playing bonuses, politics of being in the Greek. So like being in the second division was the first time that introduced me to winning, what it means to, and we got promoted that year. So like rather than the A League is still a little bit until the promotion and bonuses all come in. It's still kind of just what would I say, like a fantasy league in that sense because there's no real outcome of well, if you lose or like if you get relegated, mate, the club goes down. So and I think the state league has that. So when you play in the state league now, they know like the clubs know if you go down, like Spirit went down or whatever this year, it affects the whole club, sponsors all the way down, just filters all the way through. So where the A League is still a little bit protected, but that it was always protected to help the game not fold. But now I think it's at a stage where we need to see some results, you know. So
Yeah, I agree, and it's probably the biggest gripe with the A League at the moment. I know there's logistical things around it with the size of the country and the costs and the travel and all that, but yeah, there's for so many years there's some teams that just sit there and pick up spoon after spoon, and come there's no punishment for it. There's no drama. So why are they going to
yeah,
bother investing money to try and stay at it? Because that's what happens. They come to the January window. If you're at the
yeah.
bottom of the league, they're throwing money at anyone to come and help them stay up
Anyone,
and not get relegated. And
yeah,
it happens here in the NPL system as well. Like they don't want to get relegated, and that transfer window opens, and the
correct,
clubs who can, they go, let's go, let's spend some money to stay up because it means a lot, like you said, to sponsors and the club, and even your juniors. Then, like people don't want to play at this club because their first grade team is in NPL three. So they don't want to play youth
correct.
there. So then the youth suffers, and there's this big flow-on effect. So
Mm.
I think the sooner.
But even as a player, like you sign whatever it is, 100 grand, 150 grand. Doesn't matter if you kick a ball or don't or injured. That's what you get paid.
Mhm,
So it shouldn't be like I feel like I learned you get paid when you play like a little bit more. Like even the A League when I first came in before they had that salary cap, we were on bonuses. And mate, it's football. You know what I mean? So you play off that way. That whole when I used to come back and like here's your salary. If you win, score, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're just on a base salary,
mhm.
which is like it's 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 not football in my eyes. That's what I think.
And even with
So
obviously there's more teams now in the A League slowly, but before prior, like the off season for the A League would be 4 or 5 months, and those guys are getting paid that whole
mm,
time. There's stories of clubs training.
yeah,
They get knocked out, they don't make the finals, and they make the team keep training because they're like, we're paying you, like Yeah, I'm not going to give you 5 months off, and so it's yeah,
Correct.
a few dilemmas like that. I suppose you wouldn't have that over in Europe as well. So yeah, things are done a little bit differently here, and even with finals, you don't see that overseas. There's no finals series. There's cups and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, it is different, and everyone in Australia we love a good final. We love a grand final. But yeah, I think
Mm,
that promotion relegation is super important. That's where they've got to try and head at some point, anyway.
yeah,
Um,
some point.
yeah. So look, the next. How do you pronounce that team you went on loan to? By the way, I've looked at it a few times, and I'm like,
You can say Corfu, but Kirkia,
Kirky. Yeah, that's what I saw written.
but most people know it as Corfu. The island's Corfu,
Fair
so
enough.
Kirkia. Yeah.
Look, I know you touched on this during the warm up, but at Athens, you played with one of the all-time greats in Rivaldo. And if you haven't checked out the warm up, make sure you do because Burnsy tells a bit of a story about having a few barbecues at Rivaldo's place with his whole posse. Can you tell me, I suppose, a little bit more about what it was like from a football perspective? I suppose training with a guy like that, playing with a guy like that. Obviously, he was towards the back end of his career. But yeah, what was the more football side of that like?
It doesn't matter. There's only a handful of players that are on that level, and even though he was older, he was still on that level, and his vision and his technique was there, and like those type of players, those 20 in the world, they all stand out now.
Mm.
They're just they're just on another level, and like there's a lot of good players, and people can have good careers, but those type of players, they're just freaks. And I think the key is they do it um the back. So like they do it Wednesday, like Mo Salah now. Like this guy's got to be sore. He's got to be tired. He's only human, but he just backs like just when he's having a bad game, bro. Two top corners like this week, like nothing. So like it's just they're just on another level, and you can tell when you're around them.
Yeah, and that yeah, consistency is obviously key. And I suppose you look at those younger players coming through, and I talk about a fair bit now with my father-in-law watching the A League or whatever. And there's some of these kids they come in, they have a blinder, score a hat trick or a double or whatever, and then the next 3 weeks they do nothing. And that's I suppose that's that different
Yeah,
experience. And obviously, like you said, those really special players do it week in, week out. Did he train full time?
yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah, because you hear
always.
stories.
Oh, yeah, he was. Yeah,
Yeah, you hear stories
yeah.
now of guys,
They met.
couple sessions, that's it.
Yeah, they manage a little bit, but he's still most sessions he'll be on. So,
Unreal, unreal. Um, so when you were obviously when the time you were in Greece, there was a bit of economic turmoil over there, as often is the case in Greece. What happened with I suppose, the end of your time there? Because then you moved over to Incheon, I believe it was. How did that progress there?
so the euro crashed, and then obviously it was really bad. Like we're talking that we weren't paid for 6 months. They were handing around checks that were bouncing. It was just all like the whole economy, like getting petrol, freezing accounts and stuff like that. It was just something I've never seen before. Like it was pretty bad. And then all of us slowly we all like started getting out. Um, and then yeah, basically Korea was the option to go there, and they offered a good deal, 3 years, and I think at the time I wanted to stay in Europe, but it just fell apart. Like I don't think you understand. Besides the Premier League was like doing really well still because it's such a big league, but everything under that was like the money just got wiped. The visas, the clubs didn't want to spend any money on people that weren't local, and we were lucky that an Asian spot opened up in Asia because the Korean League is by far one of the toughest leagues you can play in, like in the world. It was so hard to play there. J League was a bit more technical, but not as hard as the K League. The K League was just tough. Like, so when I moved, yeah, and then I got injured as soon in the preseason. As soon as I moved there, and I was out for a year. So that was tough because I was really excited to play in Asia and play in Korea, and then made 12 month I was out. So and then 6 months on loan when I came back, and then by then the club is done with me. So basically played 3 games there. Then I had to rebuild, had to come back to Australia, and as quick as I said, it goes up. mate, that went down straight. And next minute I'm back where I started on loan in Australia, and then had to rebuild my career. So,
Yeah.
and then also rebuild my knee because I don't know if I was going to get back to my best anyway. So,
Well, there you have it, football fans. That was part 2 of our chat with Nathan Burns, former Socceroo. Really hope you enjoyed that. He gave some really good insight into some things that the public aren't privy to see. So that was really great. Thanks to him. Hopefully, we'll be able to wrap that up with part 3. Obviously, we had a few technical issues there towards the end. So hopefully, Nathan and I can sit down and finish that chat and we can release that final episode. But until then, please make sure you keep an eye on our socials, Spotify, YouTube, all those things, liking, commenting, do all those things that you always do. Really do appreciate that. It does make a difference. We've got some really exciting guests lined up for the next few episodes. So I really do hope that you guys enjoy that. So as always, thank you so much for choosing to listen with us. And remember, when you score, celebrate with a corner flag.